Mr. Fastfinger is an animated guitar virtuoso sensei, and he has come to shred and to help you level up your guitar playing. Years before kids started harassing their parents to buy them upgraded Fortnite skins, and long before any self-respecting Snapchat user needed a Bitmoji version of themselves, Finnish guitarist and composer Mika Tysska has been blowing minds and melting faces as Mr. Fastfinger. Whether he is recording an album, designing a new super strat, or helping you break out of guitar playing plateau, everything he touches is next level. I sat down with Mika, and this is what he had to say. Mika, so great to have you on. Thank you for meeting with me.
Thank you. Great to be here, Chris.
It's so great to touch base because I've been aware of you and Mr. Fastfinger for like quite a long time. I remember I was in the studio and my engineer's like, you have to check this out. It's like 2007 or something. I'm like, okay. And he pulls up your website and I was taken with a couple things really. It was just the playing was so high level, and then the way it was presented was so like thorough and complete as a brand. It was just so well done all around. It was the way it was, your Mr. Fastfinger was presented was as impactful as this playing, this like high level shred guitar playing. So I wanted to ask you, first of all, fantastic job, but I wanted to ask you, were you as interested in like animation and Japanese culture as you are guitar playing, or did this like evolve in some kind of random way? Like how did that come about?
Well, the whole thing, it's I don't know. I was always I was studying multimedia and design
Right.
while I came up with that idea, and I have a history with interest in both visual and musical things. And around the time when I went to study multimedia or animation and all this internet stuff, it was like I felt like I'm never going to be a guitar hero or anything. I kind of gave up that dream. And then while I was studying there, I somehow got the idea of how if I put together sort of the good old instructional VHS type of lessons and animation interactive worlds, kind of marry those two things with the internet and interactive design. I don't know. It was somehow kind of. I'll be wondering about it afterwards many times how I actually came up with everything. Since I mean, once I started working on this project, it was kind of like my end thesis project for the school. I just kind of felt that I want to create a animation character teaching the guitar, and I came up with the idea of having an island, and the guitar player would teach the people visiting the website from this location. I originally had idea of 3 different islands where they had different guitar players teaching different heavy metal styles of guitar playing, but I ended up just choosing one character that I had sort of designed on a paper, and that was Mr. Fastfinger. That character seemed to have most layers and levels, and it was closest to the style of guitar playing that I was into as well. So I went with Mr. Fastfinger character, and having this kind of Eddie Van Halen, Steve Vai, Marty Friedman, all these kind of like, I wanted this character to be kind of like embodiment of my favorite guitar players and that style, and the kind of perfectionism kind of suited the character well. And since that, it felt like the samurai thing kind of would be perfect fit with this guitar playing style. And funny thing was I never was really heavily into samurai or ninja movies or such. The only thing that had been on TV those few years earlier was this Samurai Jack TV series that was a huge influence to me when it comes to that character. But everything just kind of, I went whatever kind of felt suitable and
Sure.
put it all into the same soup, and that's what came out.
You did a fantastic job. I can only imagine how like labor intensive it is to put that kind of thing together. It's interesting because Mika is a Japanese name as well as a Finnish name, so I was wondering if there's some kind of parallel there. Interestingly, I have a question. Now you brought that up, how the sensei, Mr. Fastfinger, is this combination of, in a way, of these guitar players. Do you find like presenting the material in that way forced your own like artistic path? And that, did it like have a feedback loop where, since you had this idea of the sensei being, you know, Vi Van Halen Friedman-esque kind of character, that fed what you did later? And did you evolve into like more, even more of a shred way, or that was just like those were your favorite three guys, so it didn't really affect you in that way?
Um, the exactly the original thing was that the character was kind of like combination of my favorite childhood or youth heroes,
Yeah.
and at the same time the character had this kind of Zen wisdom kind of thing going on. He would give all these advices, which would be kind of like kind of funny, humoristic one-liners, like "use your whole body or you are going nowhere." And one of these lines were that he said was, anyways, about originality. You To be original, you have to search the depths of your soul or something like that. That was probably the what he was at least saying. But he was talking about being original, and at that point, Mr. Fastfinger's playing wasn't particularly original, but that kind of I started getting a lot of feedback that I sound like Steve Vai and all that stuff, and that kind of made me stop and think like, wait a second, that I actually do sound like him and all my heroes. I just repeat their licks, and what can I do about it? How can I be more true to Mr. Fastfinger's wisdoms and search my original sound? And that kind of became a kind of the forever going path. After that, I started wondering about how can I put myself to the guitar instead of kind of playing somebody else's licks.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a very unique place to be in terms of getting that perspective, and your art influencing your life, like art mirroring life or your life mirroring your art kind of thing. It's just an added layer element to that. Yeah, the Steve I don't know how you feel about that in terms of like anytime, particularly with non-musicians, they hear her playing, it's like, oh, you sound like this person, you sound like that person. Does that
Yeah,
bother you, or does that not bother you?
it doesn't really bother. I mean, I get a lot of compliment that people recognize my playing or sound after like 1 or 2 seconds or few notes,
Right.
and I kind of you have to accept the fact that especially the music that you listened early on, that really set everything in the first place, it has an impact on you. And if you kind of completely try to deny, it's like I don't know, it would be very strange for me to deny what I mean, that those players and the thing that came to my life, I mean, I have to be honest, and that is part of me. But part of me is also a lot of other things that I've heard and what I've experienced during all the years. All the art that I've seen and digested, everything kind of affects. And the personality, if you're a true musician, you kind of, I think you can really hear personalities come through musicians playing when they really expressing themselves.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And thank you for reminding me about that. That's in my notes for you. That was one of the things that struck me recently when I was doing like a deeper dive into your music. The personality and like the playfulness really, really comes out. And we have to reach like a certain level of proficiency to come out the other side and be able to even do that. You know what I mean? Like, so on a lot of stages in the path, we might have that personality, but not like the like technique or the musical voice to communicate that. It's really apparent, and it's like another whole level of playing when you can, speak through your music, not just play music, but really your probably a piece of your soul definitely comes out through the music. And I
It
guess
is, yeah. It truly becomes rewarding
right.
when when you can kind of express. Sometimes it's very abstract. It's you can't really put words to things, but you're able to express these things that are inside you and put them forward, and that's really rewarding.
Yeah, I'd imagine it would be. I mean, that is again like some high level, all about plateaus really, but it's a high level place to be as an instrumentalist to have that be so present in your music. I was listening to your most recent album, Tremors, and I have a lot of questions about that. But it's obviously a instrumental guitar album, but again, it's like it mirrors Mr. Fastfinger as a brand in general. It's just so well thought out and intentional and well done, well produced, well written. A lot of guitar albums they tend to have like a couple cool songs and the rest is kind of filler, and yours is like completely beginning to end listenable. So I have a lot of questions about that, but it's just really fantastically done. Like everything else you do, like the movie about the making of your guitar, which I'm going to ask you about. But did you record? I guess my question is, what's your process for writing? Is it like, do you write with your guitar and a piece of paper? Do you write in the DAW in the computer? Do you write like with your band, or is it like is one of those things the dominant thing for you from a writing perspective?
Um, well, one thing that I kind of have found and kind of find interesting is different way, the various ways of making music brings out different sides. If I try to compose, if I try to compose on the guitar, that tends to bring out different ideas than if I compose with my number one tool for creativity for the 5-6 years, which has been iPad and this gadget's Cork application, which is like a sequencer of synthesizers and drum machines. And I think it has influenced my sound that for the last few albums, because of that's probably the most most, I don't know, effective, and
Sure.
most of the songs have started with me playing with the sequencer. It's a I don't know, it's like candy store for synthesizers, and the one of the things that I'm most afraid is, or artists in general, when you start composing, is the sort of the fear of the blank paper, where we have nothing. And with that gadget, you just, what I do is I tend to just, I usually don't have any idea. Maybe I think I want to make a up-tempo song, or I might decide that, well, let's do a Dorian song in G because I haven't done anything in G for a while, and last time I was composing something based on Mixolydian or whatever. So I might have some kind of idea like that. Then I just set my gadget and I start banging some maybe drum beat, and that kind of drum beat, I put another track with some arpeggiating synth sound or bass, and I hear what comes out, and that kind of I respond to that by making another track that communicates with that. But it's to me, it's all about ear in the end. But when I compose without a guitar, I'm kind of I can settle for more simple chords, or I don't know, little things like if you have a very fancy synth tone, one sound can sound massive. When you take guitar, it's like bing, and it doesn't sound like anything. Sorry, very
Yeah.
confusing answer, but that Cork Gadget application has been a very, very great source for me to work on initial musical ideas. Later, I take everything to DAW and work on Cubase.
Okay.
And to band rehearsals, we work on the arrangements as a band,
Sure.
and that kind of brings the music to a higher level.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes songs, right now I've been gathering jams from our band rehearsals, and just yesterday I pulled out some tracks from there, and there's some incredible jams that sound very different to what we've put out, and
Do
those
you ever
jams
do
might.
a live album?
And well, I don't think it's a live, but it might be kind of like compilation of jams that I may or may not enhance by some overdubs,
Right.
like adding some extra guitar or percussion or something. Maybe, I don't know. But the most important thing would be that the music would be, to my opinion, worth listening. And that's the in the end the thing. If the music bores me, I'm not going to put it out and bother anybody else with my music. It has to be something that kind of works for me and to my ears.
What is that?
That's
Is
it.
there a parallel there, or is there a common thread between the music that you find like this needs an audience? Is it like the melody or just the general like soundscape? What is it that is like, is there one dominant thing that feels like the most important to you?
Um, there has to be some kind of element of something that moves. It can move the emotions, or it can move the ass, or whatever. It has to move me somehow, and usually it takes 1 to 3, sometimes even more, 3 years, 4 years before a song is released. And sometimes an idea that you start, you might realize 1 month later that it wasn't really a good idea. It's it kind of goes through quite a long period of time where I kind of put this song to a test, if it's really good enough to put out. I don't think it makes sense to put out music that kind of sucks, to my opinion. It doesn't really make sense. Or kind of songs that are kind of okay, but
Right. Well, yeah, you haven't fallen into that trap to me at least. I have a question. What do you use to record? Do you use an amp or do you use like an amp modeling plugin or software?
I use real gear, but I've kind of given up, and tube amplifiers right now have a my single goes through this massive pedal board, and that's the start of the signal. So there's boosters and overdrive and compressor and control unit and delay, but it goes to this little tiny looking, like it's like a toy, but it's an amplifier. It's sort of like I use it as only a line thing,
Okay.
so I don't hook it to a cabinet. The signal goes to this, and then it actually goes to a delay, and then it goes to cabinet simulation, and that's the first time the signal turns into digital.
Right.
So everything is analog this far, and what I really want is I want a ready sound. The way I play is affected by the signal, the tone.
Sure.
So I can't stand, and I don't believe in reamping.
Okay.
First of all, because the way I play, I don't know how to play if I know that it's going to be reamped, or so all the volume knobs and dynamics and everything, and you know
Yeah, I guess you wouldn't. I hadn't even thought about that because I'd heard of reamping as like as solving the problem of recording digitally and then reamping it to get the tone, but I hadn't thought about how your touch and what you end up playing would be affected by that. Because to your point, like anything, like the feedback, not literal feedback, but the feedback you get from your instrument, the touch on the instrument, and the tone that has an effect on like note choice and where you want to go with something. So yeah, I hadn't thought about that as in terms of reamping being suboptimal, but that's a very good point.
And one thing I have to say, I when I record, I put a cabinet. Usually 90% time I always use the same, but sometimes I go for another alternative cabinet. But I kind of I print it. I don't want to go to plugins to change it afterwards. I might, do a little EQ or whatever if it really needs. And if it's a really bad sound afterwards, then I will re-record it. But usually I never need to do that. But I have a ready sound. And one more before we move on, is one thing that I realized after the second album that I did for Mr. Fastfingers, I was overplaying. And one thing that really helped me to get rid of the overplaying was all the
Yes. Is that a feedback pedal or is that the delay?
that's the freak out
Yeah, so
by
sweet.
Digitech. Yeah,
That's fantastic.
and
that
it's fun.
delay is
The way, yeah,
the Boss GT500. Is that what that is?
Boss.
The delay. What's that delay that you have there?
DD500. Yeah,
Oh,
DD500.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, but I actually have how many delays or reverbs? I have DD500 doing. It does this. This is DD500. In this case, a lot of. But then I have. Wait a second. This one. This comes from this rack unit, and then I have R1 by Walrus Audio.
Cool. And are those in series or parallel? How is that set up?
This is actually all series, but the way my signal goes is I have a after the cabinet simulation, I have a XLR coming out, so I have a mono signal. And usually when I play, basic guitar, it's just I might be without the delay, so it's all dry, but I might have a little bit of delay, but I have the parallel, the signal splits to two, so I have a stereo effect for the kind of detune modulation and for the stereo reverb as well.
Fantastic. Sounds fantastic. Since you have your guitar, which I want to talk about, but another question, a kind of nerdy question. It's like jazz musicians, they might hear a chord, some crazy chord like E flat 7, flat 9 over whatever, and then the interpretation might be like, oh, I can do this or that over it. I can do the arpeggio. I can do a diminished thing over it. I can do, harmonic minor over it. I can do, all these different things. But when it comes to like shred or metal guitar, often it's like your own interpretation. It's like you're just playing over an E note, like in the bass, and maybe the song would suggest more than that. The song and the melody would suggest a scale, but if you're just playing over like a note and you're kind of taking liberty with it, you're going out on it, like what are your thoughts there? Like what's your impression when you're playing outside of the key over just a note?
That's a good question. One of the it's kind of similar thing when you solo over a riff that doesn't really have any harmony. So if you have just a riff that goes a little bit of sound, whatever riff that doesn't really go, whatever kind of metal riff, especially many times, it just kind of sits in E. It just visits some other power chords, whatever. One thing, well, there's two things you can do. the way I kind of like to do. The first is if you have to do everything on the spot. I hate playing over that type of riffs anyway because it kind of makes me kind of it's hard to relax and kind of find yourself over that thing. But if you want to improvise, but you can what's the word? Superimpose chords over that. So if you would have that, if you had that going on, you could still have kind of imagine like kind of some kind of chords, especially. Well, I would presume Aeolian sounds pretty safe for that kind of thing. So I maybe could introduce some chords by using arpeggios or strong notes from those chords in my playing. One thing, well, let's do a quick demo.
Okay.
Maybe that kind of gives a little bit different, better idea of the thing. I'll have the effects very loud. Well, just I'll just put. I messed it, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. What I will do now, I'll just that's just E. So what you could play was you could imagine or introduce chords, the Iron Maiden chords, by just playing them. So you kind of you're making those sounds there in your playing, that you kind of, you just can't play the blues licks. Another way, which is a little bit more easier, but it kind of I need to fix this because it's annoying with that. So I can't use the looper today, but anyways, I should take my shoes off. That eases the thing. But I can record chords there and play with those chords. So so I could do. Strange playing, but the you kind of you can play with those chords, and the end result is way much more melodic.
Right.
If you just play over that, it doesn't sound to our ears very melodic, and that's one of the great secrets in music. The secret in melody is actually the harmony behind it. So without
it gives you
harmony,
the path to walk down, right?
Yeah, it's very hard to sound. It takes way much more work to sound melodic if you don't have harmony that moves behind you or in the background, whatever. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's such a tough thing for a lot of students on the guitar. I know you teach, and Mr. Fastfinger, maybe you can elaborate on this, but it is an online school as well, I believe. But getting the whole harmonic picture as a guitarist is elusive for a lot of people. You know, when you think, oh, when I play the scale, those are the right notes, whatever. Here's my scale, it's E minor, there's the pattern, that's it. But then it just takes like a lot more. It's like it fractals out and it's like another dimension when you start thinking about clusters of chords or 3 and 4 or more notes. Do you,
Yeah, yeah.
do you have, I guess it's a two-part question, but do you have advice for other guitarists on how to really own the harmony, or do you have particular students come to you with the same problem all the time or the same challenge all the time?
Mm, one thing that kind of well, two things. The number one step, it's easy to say, and but you kind of really need to almost put everything that you've done before on hold, kind of pause that and kind of restart. Is start playing by ear. So that was kind of probably the most important thing that kind of helped me find my own sound. Was I stopped letting the fingers decide, and instead I kind of started singing and trying to just print it out
Right.
with the guitar and the gear that you need to make it come out loud. But the playing, I call it guitar singing. Just sing as you hear the notes, and it's all about you play one note and you hear the next one, and you hear the next one, it's higher or lower. Those are called intervals. If it's very close, it might be a minor second or major second, and when you hear da da, then you have to find that second note on the guitar, and that's the classic ear training kind of thing.
Sure.
Doing that, it's really it's so you kind of need to slow it down and kind of take your very baby steps with that thing, but it can be really rewarding, and it can be really helping you get a I think it's the way to really become to take the guitar as a tool of expression. You have to kind of sing through that. It's not about math, it's not about playing the scales or whatever. Knowing the scales and all the theory and blah blah blah, and having good technique, it's helpful, but to really just hear things inside you and let it play it out loud with your guitar.
Right.
What was the the other thing is to kind of work on chord tone, so kind of chord tone soloing,
Right.
where you kind of what I was demoing there earlier was, well, not really demoing, but the kind of outlining the chords with your note decision, the notes that you play. So when the chord changes, you're supposed to play one very important chord tone, so that even without anybody playing you the chords behind you, you can give the illusion, the idea of the sound of the chord, the harmony moving and chord changing. That's really really helpful to work on that, and that can really help you to become way much more melodic as well.
Right.
And you can, I would say, start with the aromatic chords. These are the most important chords you can. I know aromatic would be playing power chords, but you can play them minor, major, major. Those are, especially if you add that relative major chord for that first minor chord. Most of the pop music, rhythm music is really based on the rock music is based on these 3-4 chords and the different orders of these chords and different keys, obviously. But if you master these 3-4 chords, it gives you a really good start, and all the extra chords are just more like extra spices and kind of a little bit of variation. But
Right.
with these chords, if you can really play with these chords, uh, um, it's a great start, and it will take you very far.
Right. It's amazing how much, whether in a major key or a minor key, it's amazing how much there is there, how much music is created with those chords. And I guess if we really know those well, then understanding other harmony is more accessible because we know what it isn't, right? It's like we know, oh, well, that's like a flat two chord because I know it's not 1 4 5 6 or, one flat seven, flat six, that kind of thing. And interestingly, when you played that, when you looped that the first time, you kind of reinterpreted one of those chords as like a harmonic minor thing, which I guess was getting to my question in terms of like how do you play with that and take it to another place. So are there any for most of your students? Would you say that there's like a common thread between the students who seek you out?
There are certain topics. Well, some guys are need and want more technique, but many times phrasing, improvising, and phrasing. Many people like the way I improvise or make the sound that I create musically, and so we. I kind of have a lot of ideas how you can kind of get a lot of music by kind of little ideas. It's kind of like the continuity. I think phrasing is all about continuity. It's like, and improvising. It's like making music on the spot, and what makes a great story or movie or book or musical piece is when there's continuity, and continuity is one of the things that you many times don't start thinking unless somebody tells you to think about it. And it's all about that, when you play that one note, then you take a break, then you think, well, what can I do? Let's just repeat it. Maybe, well, you can hear a note and a lower note, and so you can do that. Now I have a kind of thing where there's always two notes that are going downwards, and there's already almost like a rhythmic thing. There's let's not go too deep there. It'll take 2 hours,
Yeah, I understand that, but that's
but
a great point about like melodic motif versus rhythmic motif and how both are valid and anything like there's this constant balance in music for the listener, which is like expectation versus reward. So it's like if it's too much of the same thing, it's boring, but if it's too much new information, it doesn't really give us enough to grab onto.
yeah. Somebody said it really well, that you kind of sometimes need to kind of slow down so the audience can kind of come to you before you go forward again. If you're just running constantly all over the place, nobody can really touch you or kind of get close to you or kind of get behind you. They kind of, the audience kind of needs to kind of be with you, so they can kind of start guessing where you're going. Maybe that's exactly a great thing what you said.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, we're like tempted to come right out of the box, right? As like, guitar heroes or whatever. But the cool thing about that is like whatever your ceiling is as like, a rock, shred, whatever fusion guitarist, if you start lower, the perceived ceiling is higher by the time you get there. So if you start here and you end there, it's like that's sick. But if you start here and then you come up there, it's like, oh my god, I laughed, I cried, I whatever. So that's really fantastic, and you do a lot of that on your album too. Um, I had one question about your album, which is, on the most recent one, there's only certain instances of this, but it's like, for instance, 5/4 alternate time signatures. How do you get to feel that and then improvise over? So I guess the question is like, how do you improvise over alternate time signatures or odd meter time signatures and make it like feel good? Because I guess some people
Oh,
just play and they just kind of flub the time signature and not really pay attention to it, even though it's in five. But that's not that great. But it's in like, how do you get to feel five or seven and like improvise with it?
yeah. One thing is that there's time signatures, but then there is also note groupings that I use a lot.
Right.
And even when I'm playing 4/4, again I'm grabbing the guitar, but I might do like, you know, like when it comes to five, it'll 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. I love that rhythm. First of all, I think it's very syncopating, groovy thing, and when you play that with a beat, it's less than. I like it. It kind of I like the grooviness of time signatures. Um, I'm not really into kind of like complex sound. I like the way they kind of move. You're probably talking about the 5/4 song
Right.
Water Like, which is on like maybe I have the album here. It's track number. Oh, no, actually, yeah, it's not number 8. Oh, I don't know. The second last song. It just started. And the bass and drums go 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2. It's kind of weird walls kind of thing, and it kind of da 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 da. I kind of like how that feels, and I just play this riff, which is almost purely 8 notes. It time signature is kind of like a new scale or a new theory idea that it's a little bit once you start playing with the some if you always compose in 4/4 and you try composing in 7/8, it's almost like the new signature. When it's fresh to you, it kind of inspires you. uh, it's I don't know, there's something fun about time signatures.
Right.
And what's cool about that this song particularly is it actually, you can always subdivide time signatures. When you have like 5/4, you can imagine it like 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3, or it could be also 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. And this song has both. The A and B parts are kind of like opposite ways, and for me it's natural. I mean, I just play. I just play a riff, but the drummer and bass player have to shift the kind of the subdivisions, and they at first they were really complaining about the complex, like it messes the mind a little bit.
Sure.
But it since we've been playing it as a band now, it's a lot of fun and very enjoyable song to play. But I can't remember the question anymore. But time signatures are fun.
Yeah, that's great.
They're fun. They like a different color or different ground that you get to play on.
Right. Yeah, it's I guess it's more different scale is more tangible. You can really like sink your teeth into it. I get it. Like this one's minor, this one's major, whatever. But the rhythm element, the time element is more elusive, and it's half of music. Like time is one of two dimensions in music, right? We have like pitch in whatever way, and we have time, and I guess it's just like easily overlooked. But there are a lot of goodies there. Interesting that you mentioned that. That's like another Eastern philosophy about like there's a term for that in Eastern philosophy about like the inspiration you can derive from a new thing. and it and I guess that in Eastern philosophy, the idea is to find that in general and to find that anywhere, and not necessarily need the new thing in order to derive like inspiration or to derive like a fulfillment or joy or whatever, but to find that in any situation. But yeah, that song is fantastic. The album is fantastic. Um, I was looking at your stuff, and you seem prolific. I mean, how many albums do you have? 8 or 9 in like 15 years? Is that right?
I think eight. Yeah, if you count count my solo album that I did with a cassette recorder. But then there's a couple of EPs. Yeah, but there's quite a lot. Yeah, I'm obsessed.
Fantastic. That's, I mean, it's how you get there, right? I guess it's how you reach those heights. No one's great by being casual about it. And what's next? Like, do you want to keep doing albums, or like, what do you, if you can share, like, what do you envision as like the next thing for Mr. Fastfinger?
Well, the thing is, my New Year's resolution was to seek for a little bit different sound. I think I've now had. I talked about the Gadget app and the synths that have been kind of driven songs quite a bit. I try to seek for a little bit different sounds. I'm not sure about the formats, if it's album, single, or whatever it is, but there's a couple of directions that I'm kind of trying out at this moment. A little bit different tools that I'm playing with when it comes to composition. After a long time, I experimented by just sitting here on a computer and composing like that, instead of many of the songs have been on mobile. I've been composing on aeroplanes and trains and wherever, starting the songs like that, then finishing off the songs here. But just working on very different libraries and things. And one of the things is like one direction might be the songs based on jams that we captured as a band, and I don't know. There's yeah, some stuff that one of the things that I'm thinking, like the theme. Now we've been flying, and before this, I felt like the mountain tone was kind of like more city kind of environment, and so I'm kind of feeling I'm going back to the forest now.
Got it. Got it. So that imagery helps. That imagery helps inform how you're writing. That's interesting.
Well, yeah, somehow you kind of it's kind of nice to have some kind of the flight theme kind of. It came out around 2020, late 2020, when we were preparing for our stream show that we put a lot of effort, and I pulled out one of that old Guitar Shred Show website song or jam, which became the flight mode, the title track for this first album that came last year. This old jam that we rearranged and made a song. It was just the flying thing felt so good, and kind of I don't know. So that kind of became a theme, because I felt like all the previous albums were like road movies or something. So I thought, well, how about a flying album instead? So, but
Right.
this time I want to go to forest anyways.
Got it. So speaking of flying, you met your guitar maker on a plane, right? Like, I have to ask you about your guitar. It's such a cool guitar.
Yeah, well, um, I think I met Juha Ruokangas, the guitar maker, first time in Frankfurt Messe during a trade show. When you're a Finn and you go to Germany, you have to greet another Finn. So I think I met him there for the first time, and I was playing with one German-made guitar, and he asked me like, are you happy with that guitar that you're having? He had some back thoughts, and so I was just absolutely happy with my guitar back then, or that's what I said. But at some point, he seemed like a nice guy, and he was well, he makes I knew that he makes world-class, incredible guitars. So at some point I went to maintain I took my guitars so they would maintain them, fix some stuff on the guitars, and then we started talking more about collaborating, and he making me a guitar possibly, and how about if Mr. Fastfinger character would come to the factory, as a cartoon character would come to the factory to order a guitar, what would that mean? And that kind of idea was kind of interesting. And then one time, another year, I was going to Frankfurt Messe, and early flight on Monday morning, like 6 or 7 a.m. At the airport, and I didn't see anybody that I know there. But once I sat down on the airplane, who comes sit right next to me was Juha, and it was kind of 2 or 3 hours that the flight takes. We had a lot of time to chat, and we kind of came up with the idea for the movie thing that is about the guitar creation.
Very cool. Very cool. Do you have plans for another one? Are you going to make another guitar?
Well, I have two.
Got
The
it.
other, actually, yeah, it's there on the wall. I just broke a string. Then I just took this, broke a string yesterday, and I didn't have time to change it. But I have two of these. Possibly, I need to tighten this. Possibly a special guitar. He has these Valbucker guitars, which are interesting. They're like a guitar with a tube valve pickup.
Okay.
And they're kind of special, and maybe one of those guitars one day could be
Right.
something that for the little bit more different guitar sound.
Well, that might take you in the new direction that you're after.
Yeah, and actually, Waterlike is played on one of those tube guitars,
Oh, okay, great.
one of the current ones. It was here for I don't know, a week or two, and that guitar inspired me to. I had a rough idea of that song before, but the guitar, I knew that I have to finish the song with this guitar and put it on the album or something. But I was doing a demo for him and video demo, so that song was perfect for that.
And
Guitar.
are these two guitars different, the two that you have now?
Well, they're a little bit different greens. This is more brighter, and then this Torred, what do you call this? This brighter green, and the other one is more dim. I have it here, but they are basically they're one and same guitar. Slight differences. This is actually the original, the movie guitar with the broken string now. The pickups are same. The wood is a little bit different than the neck. The fretboard is a little bit more straight on the newer guitar, and somehow it feels like I have a little bit better grip somehow.
Okay.
A little bit different tone acoustically, but when you put it on an amplifier, there's no really much difference. So it's having two guitars. So if I break a string like I did here, I can take the other guitar and continue the work or the gig, whatever. That's the main thing. I'm always being kind of a one guitar kind of single married guy who wants to do everything with one guitar.
Right.
So and that kind of has affected the guitar in that sense that I want it to be versatile. So I have the pickup selection 5 sounds, but I also have the split coils. I get
okay.
split coils here, and so especially when you're recording, you can really kind of seek for that, for the right sound. There's also out of phase, I don't know, for funny sounds, with these pickups being exactly here, these combo, it's not as exciting as the out of phase can be with some certain guitars.
Right.
Maybe one thing that I've been thinking, maybe next guitar could only have 2 pickups, so no middle pickup, perhaps.
Yeah, we don't need that, right? We don't need the middle pickup.
Well,
Maybe single coil.
I like the combination tones. I like the kind of
Right.
strat thing. I use a lot of the second and the fourth when you have the combo of these. Uh, Really, my main sounds are there. Obviously the humbucker and sometimes the full neck, but I like the the kind of sparkle and that kind of thing.
Right, yeah, it's like a very Ibanez gem, like the Evolution, and then the gem single coil, and then what is the other one? A PAF?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So and those are my I have Evo 2. This is Gem single and this is PAF Pro.
Right.
So I was thinking, well, I have one old gem, the flower gem from
Oh,
'88.
cool.
So that's in the closet, and that guitar sounds really good. I thought, well, PAF Pro would be great for neck,
Right.
and it should work really well with Evo 2, which I had not tried before. But all my guitars had Evolution for 10 or 20 years.
Right.
Whenever I would get a new guitar, I would start with some other pickup, but then I would eventually swap it to Evolution. And with this guitar, I took a risk again, and I tried the Evo 2, and it was
Right.
I liked it better than the old Evolution. And the Gem single seemed like, well, it's kind of safe. It should work really well with these humbuckers.
Do you have a
Yeah.
DiMarzio endorsement?
No, I never really seek for that. So because when I don't know, yeah, was lazy
We can
to
get on that
ask for
for you.
them.
We have to get on that for you.
Oh, we do. Yeah, I don't have any endorsements when it comes to pickups, but these are the pickups that I've always used, basically. Yeah.
Well, Mika, I could talk to you about guitars and guitar gear and guitar philosophy all day, but how do people get in touch with you, and where can we find you?
Well, they can find me from Instagram, Facebook. There you can send messages for sure. It's on Instagram. I'm Mika Fastfinger, so it's kind of like my name and Mr. Fastfinger's name. And then yeah, I think it's Mika Fastfinger as well on Facebook. I don't know. Yeah, you'll find if you just search.
MrFastfinger.net?
Yeah, MrFastfinger.net. Yeah, that's the home of all the goodies and all the stuff. Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Mika. Congratulations on the new album, and I'm looking forward to what's next for you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, and thank you for. Well, thank you anybody watching this all the way with all the very confusing answers, but the questions were great.
Thank you, Mika.